E47's podcast, MMA Fancast. It's MMA for the fans, by the fans. We talk about only the important things you want to hear.
Hey, this is Mike Goldberg, the voice of Bellator MMA on Spike. Join us right now for MMA Fancast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of MMA Fancast, brought to you by Octagon 24/7. I am your host, Brian Middleton, and I am joined by the living legend, Mr. Jim Sahara Mooney. We're traveling this week. We will be covering Bellator 186 at State College, Pennsylvania, and we're really looking forward to it. We'll be bringing you live coverage throughout the event. Ryan Bader is in the main event and defending his championship, his newly gained championship for the first time against Linton Vassell. And Jim, are you looking forward to this?
Indeed I am. What's up? We are roadies this week. That's kind of exciting for us.
We will be roadies. We will be broadcasting live from the what's the hotel?
Country Inn and Suites.
Country Inn and Suites in State College, Pennsylvania. Beginning, well, we're going to get there like late Tuesday night, but we'll have coverage throughout the week, starting Wednesday and through Saturday. So we're going to bring you lots of action. We have a special guest joining us today. One of the fighters on the card, Mike Wilkins, will be joining us very shortly. So in the meantime, we're just getting ready and getting ready to see some great MMA action live. Mike Wilkins is on the card. He's fighting Brett Martinez. Mike Wilkins is a local MMA guy. At one point he was 7-3, and he's gone on a 2-fight losing streak. Something he had a really tough, close decision loss most recently out in Atlantic City, and he'll be looking to avenge. And no one in MMA wants to have a 3-fight. Well, you don't want to lose at all, but to have a 3-fight losing streak, that's when you really see people at their best, because they're you're really under a lot of pressure there. That's a weird looking smile you got there, Sahara. How you doing?
Well, that's because I added some lighting out in my podcasting area. I think it looks a little better. It's helping some, and I just had one of Octagon 24/7's spotters was asking how the lighting was doing, if it was helping.
Okay, well, that's good. We talked. I always make fun of off air. I always make fun of Sahara about the lighting in his. I say that it always looks like a 7, like All in the Family on his end of the podcast. And as we, I make fun of Sahara no matter what. So that's nothing new, right?
That's only to make yourself feel better.
Also, we're going to be asking Mike Wilkins about his brother, who is also an MMA fighter. AJ Wilkins is really a very talented young man. I think he's 21 or 22 years old, and Mike's about 30. I think he's 30. And AJ's 22 and really doing well in the local amateur circuit. So we'll talk to him about AJ and what the future holds for him, as well as we, get ready for him to join us.
So, I don't know how much time we have before he gets in, but
he should be in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, let's. There were some things you and I were talking about off
I don't know if we're going to have enough time to talk about Colby.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 20-minute conversation.
That could be a podcast all on its own.
Colby Covington and his smack talk last night in Brazil. And he really, he's cutting a promo. He's seen Chael Sonnen, cut these smack talk promos, and and he kind of took things live in front of the crowd to a whole new level, I think.
It was interesting, and that's something that we've talked about often on here is the smack talk. Me personally, it doesn't really do anything for me. I find it humorous. I guess, some of the fighters use it as motivation. Maybe they try to amp up the aggression, or I don't know what you want to call it. Hey, we got somebody coming in.
Here we are.
Here he is.
We are joined by Mr. Mike Wilkins. How are you, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. We were I don't know if you caught any of the fights last night. We were kind of looking at talking about Colby Covington and his smack talk last night. Did you happen to catch any of that?
I fell asleep right before that fight.
Okay. Well, that is definitely something you're going to want to check out, because he took cutting a promo to a whole new level. You'll want to check that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch him on replay. I got him recorded. I'll watch him tomorrow.
Cool. So, Mike, you're you're 4 days away from a huge fight for you. How are you feeling? How was this camp? Where are you at weight wise? All that good stuff.
Camp was really good. Not too far off of my last fight, so it kind of rolled over real easy. Didn't take too much of a break. So I didn't have to turn up very hard for this camp since I was already in shape. A lot of the early part of camp is about, digging deep and getting yourself into shape. But when you're coming off of a fight, you don't have too much downtime. You just kind of like let that drag over from the previous fight. Weight's good. We're fighting this at a catch weight of 160 at my opponent's request, which is awesome. It's just an extra 5 pounds that I don't have to cut. So I'm not too worried about weight at all. It's going to be a pretty easy cut. It's going to make for an enjoyable week.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions was you fought your last fight at a 160-pound catch weight, and then this fight at a 160-pound catch weight. So one of my questions was, is that 155 an issue now, or but you said it was under his request, so.
Yeah, it was. This one was my opponent's request. Last time it was at my request. So I was coming off of a neck injury for my last fight, and I wasn't able to train, and I was on prednisone to heal my neck injury, in May, before my August fight, and I ballooned up, and I got way overweight, and I was just scared that I wasn't going to get down, so I asked for it at the catch weight, but I shouldn't have. I would have got down just fine, but just seeing such a high number, I was 192 pounds.
Yeah,
and to see just to see that number on the scale and think about how far away from 155 it was really scary. But after I did my whatever my allotted prednisone was, it was done by the end of May. By the third week of June, I was 170 pounds. So I still had 6 weeks to get down to 55, which would have been really easy. But, I just was a little scared. And we made that fight actually late May, signed the contract late May. So we were way out from the fight whenever this was going on. But also, I know these guys. I know I was familiar with my most recent opponent, Rich Petishnuk. I know we're the same size. So what's it matter what we weigh in at? I'm familiar with Brett Martinez. I know we're the same size. So what's it matter that we don't suffer an extra 5 pounds this time? Yeah. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, that makes all the sense in the world if for that to not cut that weight and be more at a peak, more able to peak on come fight time.
Yeah,
yes.
we've talked about that a number of times on the podcast with guys not making weight, and they've got to either fight at a catch weight or fights get canceled altogether because it just they can't even get close. There's health issues. Do you think first, what is your walk around weight? How much you normally cut, and then do you think there's a need for adding more weight classes to cut down on guys missing weight or the fights being canceled?
My normal walk around weight is between 170 and 175, depending on like how deep into training I am. If I'm like taking it kind of lazy, I'm going to be about 175. If I'm drinking a good amount of beer, I'm going to be like 175. But I'm typically closer to 170. So like a cut to 55 is not very difficult for me. Would I like there to be more weight classes? I think there's going to have to be more weight classes in the future, especially like, with the growth of the sport. The more athletes we get in the sport, the more demand for weight classes there's going to be. Some of these weight classes have significant jumps, like 155 to 170.
That's a big jump.
That's a 15-pound jump, That's nearly 10% of that of a 155er, 10% of a 155er, that's 15.5 pounds, so we're looking at almost 10% of the weight to jump.
Do you think that would water down the competition, similar to other sports where they've done expansion, like in baseball and football, adding cities with professional franchises? Is that something that could possibly water down professional combat sports?
In my opinion, I think it would only water it down if you don't have the athletes. And I think like maybe right now might not be the ideal time to add the weight classes. But like, look how this sport grows. Look how fast it grows. Like there's so many athletes like entering into the sport. The more number of athletes we got, the more number of athletes we have to fill those weight classes, the more parity we create, because there's more matchups to create, because there's more weight classes, so there's more room for more fighters. I'm looking at it right now from more of like a fighter standpoint. Like, the more weight classes there are, the more fights that there need to be made, the more paychecks I can get.
Yeah, and from a promoter standpoint, I mean, the more weight class you have, the more championship bouts you have, the more, you can tout those champions and kind of go from there. So I got a quick question for you. Are you opposed to us calling you the wild card? Are we allowed to do that?
No, I'm not opposed to it, but like that was just so Matt Layshock threw that on an old video because I went a long time without having a nickname. And I was like kind of against the nickname for a little bit, but I go by Iron City now because Dom Rosada he threw that one on me because like I'm a pretty talented beer drinker, and it can like kind of play off of the fighting like Iron Mike Tyson and then a little bit of Pittsburgh flair. Yeah, I like to drink cheap beer, and that's how I roll.
Yeah, so you had like the unannounced nickname of the wild card before you got the Iron City.
That was just for one video because I was never like the wild card. It was just for that one video because everybody in that video had a nickname, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. I went I think I went 17 fights without having a nickname, and then finally someone threw one on me.
All right, so I got another question for you. If hypothetically, this is strictly hypothetically, if you were 4 hours late for a date, do you think you'd get a second date?
Me? I would not. No, probably not me.
Do you want to tell that story? Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, my current fiance. This is almost 10 years ago now. She's from Youngstown, Ohio. I'm from Pittsburgh. We met through MMA. I fought her brother. That we were each other's first amateur fight. This is all the way back in 2007. So she hated me because, I fought her brother. And her and my younger brother actually got in a little screaming match at that particular fight. But later on,
he had to have been 14 at the time or something.
It was 11.
11, yeah.
He was 11 at the time. It's real funny. They were they remember it. I didn't know, obviously, because I was in the cage competing. But so after the fight, me and Danny, my fiance's brother, who I fought that night, we end up fighting on the same card 4 months later. And here goes the thing. When you fight somebody, you are now a fan of them. If you beat them, you want them to win because if they win, it makes you look like you beat someone who's good. If you lost to someone, you damn sure want them to win because you don't want to look like you lost to a bum. So we're rooting for each other and stuff. And after the fight, we were talking to each other, you know, like becoming friends and stuff. And my fiance Katie was standing there, but I wouldn't look at her at the time. I saw her out of the corner of my eye, but I would not, because I'm big on like being respectful. So like I refused to like even glance to my right. But I got home that night and I had a MySpace friend request, and it was her. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what's up. So we started talking, messaging each other, and I asked her out on a date to come to the Pittsburgh Zoo because she said she had never been to a zoo. So after about a month of us talking, she's supposed to come to the zoo. She's going to drive and meet me in Pittsburgh. And she got real nervous and just wasn't coming or whatever. And her mom finally made her come, and she was 4 hours late. So we got to go to the zoo for like an hour because the zoo was going to close. Yeah. So before our first date, we actually had like our first argument. But actually the full circle on it, that was May 18th, 2008. And now we're getting married on May 18th, 2018. So
that's pretty sweet.
Hopefully she's not 4 hours late to that.
Yeah, well, that's possible. You keep your fingers crossed there.
Yeah. And then, one other thing is, we could go back and edit if you want, but I think you said my current fiance. You mean your fiance who will be your future lifetime wife and partner? Oh
yeah. We can leave that in. It don't matter. That's not a big deal. I'll live. She was 4 hours late. She deserved it.
Gotta forgive her for that. You gotta get her back for that. So how did that? Tell me how that works. So you're like looking at your watch and she's like 20 minutes late, and you're like, oh, she's just fashionably late. Like, how does that take place?
Yeah,
you're waiting around for 4 hours.
Dude, I don't even remember. It's so long ago now. But like the thing was like I didn't really have any room to complain because like I was kind of like not doing too much for myself at that point in time. Like I didn't have a car. She had to come pick me up for this date from out of state. I didn't have a car.
Nice.
I was living on a couch in my mom's living room and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure I was either just like working for my dad or I was like unemployed or something, just like fighting amateur fights and stuff. Yeah. So I didn't like have much stock to make demands, but I was pissed though. I was like, "What are you doing?"
That's how married life is too. You're not going to have really anything to make demands with.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting bullied around for about 9 years now. So what's another however many more I'm alive?
Lifetime.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm pretty used to it. It's what I know now.
So was that your future brother-in-law's only fight?
No, he had 9 fights, but we were each other's first fight. He fought. He never turned pro. You know, like a lot of things that happen to amateurs. You know, like life gets in the way. You know, depend on where like the direction that your career is going. Like if you're going to be able to make it a career, he had to take a job that required working like nearly 70 hours. If not more, so it kind of cut into his ability to train. So, you know, that run was over. But it was really cool after, you know, Katie and I started dating to get to train with him all the time, you know. And, like, I cornered him for a bunch of his fights later on through his career and stuff. And that was cool, and it was sad when, you know, that run was over because we were having a good time.
Yeah. Your brother just fought last weekend and got his 4th amateur win.
Yes, yeah, he's 4-1 now. He looked pretty good. You know, he's definitely developing some good skills. You know,
he's training with you at Stout.
Yeah. He's training down there as much as he can. He's working 2 jobs right now. One of them is teaching kids jiu-jitsu at Stout Training Pittsburgh. The other one, he's an electrician. So, you know, he gets his workouts in now. He's making a lot of progress. He's very talented. He's very athletically gifted. Family. Yeah, my dad owns a company, the A. Wilkins Electric. So we're on the job site since we're young. You know, you're like 10 years old. They're sending you out to the truck to grab wire nuts and boxes and like things like this. And that's how you learn what the material is. And then next thing you know, you're 12 and you're putting on an outlet. you're 14 and you're running the drill. And yeah, then all of a sudden you're 20 years old and you're a full-time electrician before you even knew it.
Very cool. Who were so your brothers obviously has an impressive record at 4-1 and is it in the amateur ranks at this point, and he's very young. He's what, 22?
Yes.
Who are some of the other young guys at Stout, or even that you know that are at Cherico or the Mat Factory? Who are some of the young Pittsburgh guys?
Okay, so we got this Russian, Artem Nikiev. He just went back to Russia on Friday, but he's coming back in February. But he fought the same night as my brother. And if you go on, I believe it's on our gym's Facebook page, and you can watch the live video of his amateur debut. This kid he's something special. He called exactly what he was going to do in his fight, and he went out there and did it. He ended up winning by a technical knockout in 35 seconds. And he just scary. You know, he's just a scary kid, and he's young. He's 24. He wants to do nothing but fight. He came over here on a visitor's visa just to visit America, and he came to the gym to get some training in. We're like, you're fighting, dude. And he had to go back because his visa's up. But, he's going to come back, and we're going to see what we can do with him and get him fighting. So definitely be on the lookout for him. He's very dangerous, and he's very exciting. I can tell
by how excited you got to just talk about him. That's awesome.
I'm talking about this kid is a 1-0 amateur. He's got one fight, and he's normally you hold out. You hold out on someone, okay, you got one fight, you did well in one fight, great. A lot of people do that. You hold out, you see how they handle diversity, you see how maybe they deal with a loss, you see how they deal with different styles of fighters. But this kid's special. This kid's unique. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention for when he comes back. Yeah, he's definitely a big prospect.
What weight class is he fighting at?
He's fighting at 145 as an amateur. Depending on how big he gets, because he's pretty young, it'll probably be a 135 pro. Because he's not he's only cutting 3-4 pounds to fight 145 as an amateur.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other fighters. We've got Jonas Rubiano. He's not a young fighter by any means, but he's a pro down at Stout. He's going to be fighting his second professional fight, finally starting to drop down to the weight class that he should be at. He's working his way down towards it. On November 22nd, that's going to be in Erie the day before Thanksgiving. He's been fighting. He was really good amateur. He won the Gladiators of the Cage amateur title, walking around basically lighter than the weight he fought. And he made his pro debut on UFC Fight Pass in Canada at bantamweight 135. And we show up 3 days before weigh, or 2 days before weigh-ins, 3 days before the fight, and he's 134 pounds. And I'm like, dude, this is you can't do this. You got to either A, be heavier, or you got to go to 25s. But it's kind of hard to find 25s. So we found him a catchweight fight at 130, so he gets to start working down. So now he's going to cut 3 pounds for a pro fight, which is obnoxious, But yeah, so look out for him. And the rest of us are basically just on the Bellator card.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did that we've talked to Dom and Cherico about UFC and then Dom for Bellator. How did that call come in for you?
Isaac Greeley, Dom's coach and one of my coaches, he got me hooked up, I believe, through Dom, So I believe that's how I got the opportunity to get in. A promoter of XCC, Ryan Kerwin, he reached out to me off of Isaac's request and helped me get the matchup to get a fight for this Bellator card.
Cool. So do you work at Stout full time? Or do you? Yep.
Yeah, I'm full time. I was an electrician. The last time I wore my tool belt was September 27th, 2013. I've been full time instructing jiu-jitsu since that date.
Okay. And you don't have any ownership stake in Stout, do you?
No.
Okay.
No, just I'm an instructor. I feel as if I have ownership because, I've been there from day one at that gym as just a member. So like, I put my heart and soul into my students. I'm the head youth instructor, so I teach the kids, but I'm also the assistant adult instructor in the jiu-jitsu program. And I'm the MMA, like fundamentals coach and stuff. And, I love that gym. I love the academy. I love everybody we have. And, I do whatever it takes to help people meet their goals, and make sure that, they're learning the right things.
There is someone very close to MMA Fancast who has you were their instructor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Jake, my son Jake.
Yeah.
He keeps talking to me. He's like twice a week, Daddy, when am I going back to? He calls it karate. When am I going back to karate? When am I
the ground karate?
Yeah.
There's a funny story to ground karate. Gary Tunnen, very famous jiu-jitsu guy. He's a Renzo Gracie guy. He's just won the most recent EBI. He's like a 4-time EBI champ. But when he was opening his academy, he had to get a permit while they were doing the construction and stuff, like occupancy permit or whatever, and they put ground karate on it. So that's a common joke that we use.
Speaking of BJJ, where are you with your what class belt are you?
I'm a brown belt.
Brown belt, great.
Yeah, brown belt. I like it. I like being a brown belt. I've been training for 10 years. Typically takes someone between 8 to 12 years to get a black belt, and I like that. I feel like I'm really good at jiu-jitsu. I feel like I can definitely compete and beat a lot of black belts. I have competed and beaten a lot of black belts, but I like what my instructor, like the values he sets for what I need to do to accomplish that, and I like that I haven't accomplished it yet. So I still get to strive for it.
Do you compete a lot in BJJ?
Man, not as much as I wish I did. I haven't competed since February in jiu-jitsu, but I'm actually going to be competing this November 11th in Cleveland. So the week after the fight, I'll be back on the jiu-jitsu mats.
Yeah, that's great.
So when we were talking to Dom, Ryan asked him the question about getting video on his opponents, and he said he doesn't really do that, that he leaves it up to his coaches and he just focuses on his game. Do you get involved in that at all?
I watch video on my opponents, very limited video. I leave it up to my coaches, the same as you might be able to tell. Me and Dom, we share a lot of the same coaching staff. We have a couple different variations in different areas, but our head coaches are the same people. Warren Stout and Isaac Greeley, they run our camps. They're they're our main coaches, so they watch video for us. I might watch a little more video than Dom because I just like to I want to get a visual of my opponent, so that way whenever I'm thinking about it, I can see his face, I can see his movement, things like that. What I don't like is to go in there and assume that I'm going to fight the same guy who's fighting this fight I'm watching, because I know how much I've evolved, and I know how much everybody can evolve in between fights, so you can never think that you watch this guy's fight and that's the same guy you're going to be fighting, because most of the time it won't be, where everybody's constantly developing. It's an arms race in mixed martial arts right now, and it's all about who can develop faster at this point in time. So you never can expect that you're watching video, this guy's throwing this right hand and then he shoots his takedown off of this type of setup. It's going to change, guarantee it.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the matchup in a little bit. But I want to talk to you first about the Yinzer Scrappack.
Yeah.
And so you're a quarter of the Scrappack, right?
Yeah.
But so something you mentioned how your fiance hated you, and I understand that the Yinzer Scrappack is built on hate.
Man, it's built on hate for them boys, but I'm a nice guy. I don't hate anybody except for the rest of my Yinzer Scrappack teammates. I hate those guys.
Well, what I'm saying is that in order for the four members of the Yinzer Scrappack,
yes, we all hated each other.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. First, it started with me and Mark. Mark is the original hater. Mark Cherico. He hates everybody automatically. It's default. You meet if he hears of you, he hates you until he meets you, and then he likes you. It's just default, right? So Mark hated me. But then he needed me. He had a fight against a tall guy, and I'm taller than Mark, so he was like, "Hey, you want to get some sparring in? Help me prepare for a tall guy." And I was like, "Yes." So then we became friends and started training, and then we hated We hated him big time. We talked so much on him. We'd be at the fights at Cage of Chaos, where we all had like a lot of our amateur, or like a good portion of our amateur fights, just talking so much on Kama and how he sucked at everything. And then we started training with him. So then he's on the Yinzer Scrappack. I don't know if Mark hated Dom and Dom hated Mark. Maybe I never hated Dom, and Dom never hated me. But like somebody had to hate Dom for him to get in.
Well,
so we're going to assume it was Mark.
Mark naturally hates everyone. So there's hey, we probably should have told you this. But we have a clean podcast, so I'm going to, just to avoid me doing more editing, if you could try to not
Did I say something?
Yeah, like the talking poo-poo.
Oh, you can't say that word?
Well,
man.
We have to edit that out. So in order to be classified by iTunes as a clean podcast, we can't have those certain words.
You can't have that little E on your iTunes thing.
No, yeah, well, we're shooting for the clean version. So we're both dads, and
yes,
and I think that's a big thing. Like, I want to be able to listen to MMA with my kids in the car and stuff like that, and that's hard to do.
Right.
So we think that that's a market that needs hit up.
Yeah, and you can't listen to a Joe Rogan show with your kids in the background.
No, you can't.
Okay, so Brett Martinez. Let's talk a little bit more about him. He hasn't fought since 2015. You fought 6 times since he last fought, or at least what I see listed on Tapology, unless you know of something I don't know. So, do you know about his layoff? Do you know why he's been off since 2015?
I think he got grappling. I think he got real into jiu-jitsu. I saw he took a bunch of like what we would call professional jiu-jitsu fights, which is like fight to win style type event, like MMA cards but just jiu-jitsu. So I think he got real into that. He might have been kind of like needed a break from MMA. MMA can wear you down. It's a lot of like training for very little reward. But that tells you something. I think we turned pro around the same time, and he made it up to 11 fights in the time I made it up to 5, and then I had to rattle those 6 off during his layoff. So
he's been active since 2015. He didn't face like a major injury or anything like that.
Not to my knowledge. Okay. But I don't personally know him. Yeah. Like I've never seen him in person, but like I've heard of him, like because we're like near. He was a 45er for a little bit, but I was a 45er early on too. So like I'd pay attention then, and then like I jumped up to 55s, and then he came up right at the end. So like then he was back on my radar of someone you got to look out for. Plus he was doing good. He like had a fight in Bellator and won. So
And now you both fight at 160.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the new weight class.
Yeah. So with Brett Martinez, have you visualized that fight? What's that like? You said you want to be able to see it when you're thinking about it. Do you go through a fight and visualize the movement and the fight?
I just put like I don't visualize like how the entire fight's going to go or anything, or like even the first sequence I don't visualize. I just visualize standing across the cage, doing my pace while they're announcing my name, and like looking over and just seeing that right face. So that way, when I see that for real, then like, it makes sense. You know, it like makes sense. I don't have like any adrenaline. It feels very comfortable. So I just want to know what his face looks like. And whenever whenever the referee's like, are you ready? Are you ready? And boom. And we start like walking towards each other. I want to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's it. Other than that, for me, my coach believes it's very important that I fight kind of free. He thinks if I get too locked down, and I agree, if I get too locked down on like a certain thing I have to do, I am a little tighter. Like, so if I'm like, oh, you know, I need to hit this particular combination or this particular takedown or this particular submission, I will start shutting down anything that might open up around it. But if I just go out there and like just let it be loose, I tend to have better results. I tend to hit openings like on the fly because I can be one of my strengths could be that like my reaction time is pretty good, and I just kind of like find a lot of openings by utilizing my speed, stuff like that. So if I'm too one-dimensional, if I'm not one-dimensional, like singularly focused, then kind of, you know, takes away from my abilities.
So if I were to watch one Mike Wilkins fight on YouTube or something, what do you think would best represent Mike Wilkins as a fighter?
Probably the best fight would be my fight against John Del Bruges, which was August of last year. It was he was, in my opinion, he was going to be the toughest matchup for me in my career because he was a brown belt world champion, jiu-jitsu guy who had very strong wrestling, had a very good record, was the regional champion in other promotions, upper weight class. And he was like the style that like gave me the most nerves, but I just like dropped all those nerves, went out there, performed, and put on a great performance.
Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to when we were talking about you talking about Warren and some things he's telling you not to get focused on. So, you know, during your fight camp, you're getting coaching. Obviously, you know, in between rounds, it's happening before you even step in. Now, what about when the fight is actually going on? I know you hear them, you know, coaching out to you. How much of that actually sinks in, and do you actually really hear it where, you know, you can utilize what they're telling you?
So this is something that I got to attribute to growing up wrestling. I hear everything my coaches say, and I'm able to internalize it immediately. So that's definitely a great help. But I'm not like a robot. It's not like they're playing a video game. If my coach calls out a certain combination that he believes is open, it's not a guarantee that I'm going to throw it, because the reason he's calling it is because he sees it's open from a certain angle. I'm coming from another angle. I will acknowledge that they called out for this combination or this technique. I will assess if I should throw it or not, and then I'll either throw it or not. But if I feel it's not open, I won't do it. And my coaches want me to do that. They want me, like, you know, to make my own decisions in there. I've got a lot of experience. Coming in, this will be my 23rd fight or something like that. So, you know, I've been in there. I've done it a lot. I've wrestled thousands of matches. I've done hundreds of jiu-jitsu matches. So I've learned how to key in on my coaches, and I've learned how to, you know, make those decisions on if what they call is imperative or if it's just more of an opinion or a suggestion.
Interesting.
When we spoke in Connecticut and you were cornering Dom, you said, you know, he doesn't get nervous for his fights. I get so much more nervous for his fights than he does. So what about your fights? Do you get I mean, there's a healthy nervous. How much healthy nervous do you get?
I don't get nervous anymore. It was like an ebb and flow when I first started fighting as an amateur. So nervous. Then towards the end of my amateur career, no nerves at all. Then I turned pro, and it was all a whole new thing. I was just like dying of nerves, and now I'm just not nervous anymore. I don't know. You just kind of get used to it, I think. You just kind of like, I think if nerves come in, you're like, I think people may believe you're scared of getting hurt, which you're not. You know, you're scared of the outcome maybe not going your way. The only thing that I really get nervous about that gives me nerves is like, what if this guy's got something that I'm not ready for? What if he's doing something I've never seen before, which is typically an incredibly irrational fear. So you just kind of like talk that out of your head for a second and you're good. I haven't been nervous for like backstage for a fight for probably about like 5-6 fights now.
So do you think this different type of experience with this, you know, a bigger stadium, a bigger crowd at Bellator, do you think that there will be some new nerves, or do you think that's not even a concern to you?
So I think there would have been, but luckily I was in Dom's corner, so I got to experience what a week at Bellator is like, what backstage at Bellator is like, and I think that's incredibly valuable. That's one thing I do for like some of the people I coach, like for example, my younger brother, namely AJ. I put him in my corner. Do I put him in my corner so he can give me advice? No. What's he going to advise me to do? You know, if he knows something, I already knew it because I would have taught him. I put him there so he can get the experience, so he can see what it's like. You know, he's fighting on a lower level amateur. You know, then he's going to move on to maybe like some bigger amateur fights, then go to lower level pro fights, local pro fights, regional fights, and then hopefully to the levels of like Bellator and the UFC. So any advantage I can give him, any comfort that I can give, like, you know, my teammates, like, or my brother or athletes that I coach, by letting them experience what it's like there beforehand, it can only benefit. It can't hurt. And that's a benefit that I got by being able to be in Dom's corner in Connecticut. I know what it's like back there. I know what that cage looks like. I stood up on that cage while he was in it. You know, I get to watch it on TV too. So like, it's going to be very familiar, very comfortable. And then one thing that I think is very important is I know I belong. You know, I know I belong in that cage. I know I belong at this level. I've got a lot of skill. And now I get like it's like my opportunity to prove it. It's like my interview, my audition. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, that's Dom Mazzata said something similar to us when we talked to him recently. And, you know, I think he said he went to Florida and he, you know, was working with Michael Johnson for a little bit. And he said the same thing. I forget how the question was phrased to him, but, you know, something along the lines of, you know, did you size yourself up to him and anybody else that was there? And what did you come away with? And he said basically the same thing, that, you know, he felt like he belonged and that he wasn't outclassed. You know, so that's interesting that you were saying that. Now, the question I'm leading up to is, having had that experience up in Connecticut, did you get starstruck by any other fighters? Is there somebody out there now, you know, if you would come across their path that, you know, you would stop in your tracks and, you know, think, wow, I can't believe I'm, you know, right next to this guy?
No fighters. That would happen to me with maybe some other people. But luckily I believe it happened to me once, and I believe the person it happened to me with, I already met, John Smith, the coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboys wrestling team, 6-time world and Olympic champ. I got to meet him one day, and like, he introduced himself to me. He was like, "Hey, I'm John Smith," and I was like, "Hey," and like I was like having trouble spitting my name out, but like he's like my favorite athlete. Fighters, I met a bunch of, like, my favorite fighter is Frankie Edgar. I've met him multiple times, so I don't think like I would get starstruck by any fighters. You know, mainly wrestlers, typically, because I'm a huge wrestling fan. I love wrestling more than I love fighting.
That's interesting. There's a lot of good wrestling in 2019 coming to the area with the NCAA.
Yeah, NCAAs.
Yeah.
This year, 2018, they're in Cleveland, so that's pretty close. I'm actually going to do my bachelor party at NCAAs in Cleveland this month.
Yeah, so you're doing your bachelor party where guys are in singlets. That's interesting.
Man, I wasn't care about wrestling. Oh, for my I turned 30 last year, and for my 30th birthday, my fiance got me tickets to this tournament called the Southern Scuffle, which is in the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and it's a huge like winter tournament that for NCAA Division I. And she went down there, sat in the gym with me for 12 hours a day for 2 days straight. Yeah, I can't get enough of wrestling.
That's awesome. Well, you'll have to, my sons are all in wrestling, and so yeah, you'll have to give me some pointers. I'm the commissioner for their youth league, so.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. I'll be hitting you up for some pointers.
Sounds good.
So, how do you want to be known when it's all said and done with your MMA career, and you have this huge opportunity to fight for the second largest MMA promotion in the world? When it's all said and done, how do you want to be known? What Mike Wilkins as a fighter, how do you want to be seen?
I just want to be seen as someone who had great work ethic and chased it down. Like I'm chasing down this dream. I've had a lot of ups and a couple downs, but like I never let those downs bring me too far down. I brush it off, keep digging, lick my wounds, and just keep driving forward. Another thing, like I want to be known as a guy, like look back at my record, look back at my opponents. I did not take an easy path, even my amateur fights are full of guys with who ended up having great pro records, and I'm very proud of that. So that's something I'd like to be known for, but mainly just someone who just kept chasing it down, kept grinding after it. I don't want to be like, I want to be someone that no one gets too excited to have to fight,
Yeah, absolutely.
Win or lose, it shouldn't be too fun. Shouldn't want to do that again.
You mentioned that you are going to be in a BJJ tournament on a weekend after, on November 11th. How quickly, assuming there's no injuries, nothing where you get a medical suspension for any length of time, how quickly would you like to get back in the cage after your Bellator fight?
I'd like to go January. January would be good. I would like, ideally, I go somewhere between January and March.
Okay, good. This is a one-fight Bellator deal.
Yes.
Okay. Jim, were you?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any sponsors you have for this fight that you would like to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah, I got I got really great sponsors for this fight. I actually I've been one, like I haven't really like been one to push to get sponsors. Like kind of like seemed like might be a little more work than I was willing to do just for a couple $100. Because I'm not big on money. I like I don't really care about money that much. I value relationships and I value time. But I got some great sponsors now working with me that I'm incredibly thankful for. First off, my gym, Stout Training Pittsburgh. We're now in 2 locations where we've always been down the Strip District, and now we have a location up in Cranberry that's fairly new. It started in March. I teach up there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a great environment up there, and I love being there. So anybody up in that area, come check us out. I've got a great sponsor, Ronin Advertising. I don't know what I did to deserve this sponsor, but they're an incredibly large marketing advertising company. They do like Super Bowl commercials and stuff like that. And they decided to take me on as like a pet project, pure goodwill. And if you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, you'll see that there's a documentary on my road to Bellator coming out, and the trailer was just released last week. They spent a lot of time following me around, filming me, interviewing people, people around me, people close to me, getting a lot of great shots of my day-to-day life and what it takes to, walk in my shoes. So big thanks to them. East American Logistics, it's a shipping company. A guy who who used to train with me, Ryan Dunn. I used to train his son, Sean Dunn. He just wanted to lend me some support. They actually, financially gave me some help. So, but most importantly, he sent me my check for the sponsorship, but he included this note with it that, I'm going to never let that note go. It fired me up. I'm going to keep that forever. That's going to end up in a framed box in my man cave.
Nice.
I'm really pumped about that. So I want to thank him. And,
can you share with us anything that the note said, or just what fired you up so much?
It was just really something real nice that he said to me, but the way he said it to me really fired me up. And if you want to keep that explicit rating off your show, you can't know.
Okay. That says it all.
Yeah. He got away with words with me, and I like it. So Toast Pain Relief, I know a lot of also use it. A lot of the athletes in the Pittsburgh area using Toast Pain Relief. Thanks to them, they hooked me up with some stuff that I like. If you're feeling achy and stuff after, we're training so hard, so that really helps. Ink Division, who's printing out my shorts and my shirts, did a lot of artwork for my shirts. My shirts look sweet, and they threw the logos on my shorts for me to make sure that I'm going to look real pretty on camera. And last but not least, shout out to my old man, Al Wilkins, A. Wilkins Electric, family owned and operated for 26 years in and around the city of Pittsburgh.
That is great. You're a very modest guy, and you say you're very fortunate to have these sponsors, but from your attitude and your demeanor and just your work ethic and stuff, those guys are also they should be very proud to have you as a representing them.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. That's what I want to be known as most of all, is a good person.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
All right. So final question. Did you grow up, or do you currently watch WWE?
No, I don't currently, and I didn't grow up watching it either. My little brothers did. They were fanatic about it, but so I know some things from them, but no, that's pretty much it.
You know what's coming, don't you? So you have a fight coming up this Friday night, November 3rd, and against Brett Martinez. And if you were a WWE guy, you'd be giving a good promo. You'd be giving a Colby Covington promo. So,
I'm not on that. I don't have that Colby Covington hate in my heart right now. I don't think.
You saw Dom give a promo when we were in Connecticut. Don't you remember that?
I do remember.
So
I do remember.
I'm asking you if you want to do the same thing.
I don't got it in me. So Dom. Oh no. Hello.
Yeah, we're here.
We got you.
Oh, okay. The screen is gone for me now. Anyhow, Dom is quite angry because he's short. So that's why he's able to do those things.
He has little man syndrome.
Yes, very much so.
That brings, well, I did say that was the last question, but since you didn't do the promo, I do have another question that I skipped over, but I do want to go back to. I would love to know, I love to pick on Dom. So you gotta give me some ammo. Give me something embarrassing about Dom.
Oh man.
He wouldn't really he's okay with you telling, but he really wouldn't want you to tell.
Man, I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Do you two go out and have drinks together?
Yeah, occasionally, if the time is right, after fights and stuff, we'll get some drinks and stuff, but not we train a lot, so not really. But I see him get angry all the time, and you see Dom get angry. He talks with his hands real low, and I like to think I'm Dom's anger translator, because when he gets mad, he starts mumbling, and no one can understand anything he says. So I have to relay the message, and his hands are just. But that's all I got about Dom.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And when something happens, you think, oh, I can tell MMA Fancast, Octagon 24/7 about this to give them ammo for Dom. You just let us know. You can text it to me.
Oh, I got you.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll fire something over to you if I maybe I'll catch some sneak videos of him freaking out or something.
Yeah, you have been extremely generous with your time. I really appreciate it. And doing it during a Steeler game. I don't know if you're a Steeler fan, but
watching right now.
I'm recording it, so I'm
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward through it.
That's why, like, if you notice, like, my eyes kept drifting up above the screen because I kept going up and watching the game.
Yeah. So, but you've been very generous with your time. Just remember, you had a big opportunity here with your Bellator debut, and when you make it big time, like, don't forget the little guys here at Octagon247.com, MMA Fancast. We'll always be behind you and wish you the best of luck, and we'll pray that God keeps you safe through this fight, and that you go out there and give your best.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Even when I get famous, blow up, and act like I don't know nobody, I'm going to make sure I remember you guys.
All right. Sounds good, brother.
All right. Thank you
for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right. We'll see you during the week.
I'll see you up there. Take it easy.
Have a good one. Mike Wilkins, who will be making his Bellator MMA debut. That was a great period of time that he spent with us and shared with us, and I don't think he's disconnected yet, but there he goes. Just generous with his time. He answered. We didn't think we'd get to all these questions. We still have a couple more, but we thought we'd hit a fraction of these questions, but he was just very generous. Gave us almost an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that we found out September of 2016 when we went up to Cleveland for UFC 203. And we had the interactions we did with all those fighters, and they were all just down-to-earth, humble guys who would talk about anything that we asked of them. And we found, since that time, doing the podcast, doing the website, anytime we ask guys questions or try to get interviews, nobody's turned us down, and nobody's been short with their answers or even short with us and looked down on us. So Mike's just, continuing in that tradition and the way we've interacted with them.
That truly is what completely separates MMA from every other major sport in the United States. Hockey, football. I mean, those guys are nice.
I would say NHL is there, but not
the accessibility is not there.
Right, sure.
MMA guys make themselves so available, so much more than any other sport. They're just blue collar guys that are good guys, good people, and that's been our experience with every single event that we've covered, every single fight. I mean, we've covered some big events. We've covered UFC 205, and every experience we've had has been even with guys who have a reputation for being. My experience with Luke Rockhold was very cordial, very pleasant, and he's a guy that I, as a fan of MMA, he has always come across to me as being kind of smug, and he was far from that. And even in the interview that I had with him, which is on YouTube on the Octagon 24/7 Octagon 24/7 channel on YouTube. Even in that, he still comes across on camera as smug, but he in person it did not. He was not like that at all. And so every I can't think of a single fighter or any. I mean, we met Dana. He was very good with no one acted above us. Mm-mm. And that's something that's really cool and unique to the sport, in my opinion. The accessibility, the humility that lacks in major, and even in college athletics, major college athletics, it lacks there. We will be with you all week. We try to keep these podcasts at about an hour. We're at that point. And so due to Mike Wilkins giving us all the time we needed, that's the pretty much the content of this podcast. We'll be podcasting at least one more time, possibly two more times this week, with special edition podcasts live from State College, Pennsylvania. This site, Bryce Jordan Center, is the site of Bellator 186, headlined by Linton Vassell, making his first title appearance against newly crowned light heavyweight Bellator champion Ryan Bader. That's this Friday, November 3rd, live and free on Spike Television. I got a great undercard that's on Bellator.com that has plenty, and when I say plenty, I mean plenty of fighters from Western Pennsylvania, including Mike Wilkins, who we just heard from, including Ethan Goss, who is fighting out of Altoona, and I think he's originally from right around State College, as well as Dominic Mazzata. There's a whole host of guys from Western
Francis Healy.
Yep, Healy.
I think Josh Fremd.
Yep.
Chris Dempsey, who's on the main card.
Absolutely. And that doesn't even mention the State College fighters. Ed Ruth, who's an All-American, as well as
who's that other guy? Phil something?
Phil Davis.
That's it.
And so, yeah, it's a great card. We're very much looking forward to it, and we will bring you live coverage throughout the week. So, with that being said, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of Octagon 24/7 MMA Fancast, this is Ryan Middleton signing off, saying thank you. We'll see you later in this week, and God bless.